have the day off. I actually have the next 2 days off because of weird school scheduling nonsense. Over the weekend, I finished The Exiled 7. Ultimately, I really enjoyed it. I actually came out to 4.75 stars. I know I haven't been giving you ratings, but I want to use that as the frame. And I'm going to talk about this book as how I thought about it when I immediately ended it. And then I'll tell you some things that have made me kind of retroactively frustrated with it. So I enjoyed this. The characters in this are absolutely delightful. So if anybody's familiar with The Hobbit, and I'm going to compare this to The Hobbit only insofar as I can talk about dwarves. There are 8 dwarfs in The Hobbit, I think. And other than Thorin, I could not tell you a thing about any of them. Couldn't tell you which one was which. Couldn't tell you anything about them. This one has 7 dwarfs, and they're all so distinct. And like it kind of creeps up on you. Like in the beginning, I'm like, okay, I might remember Ford. Maybe I'll remember 1 or 2 of these. You know, the 2 that I was like, oh yeah, these are the ones I'm gonna remember are Ford and Callum, because they have like a unique relationship to the main dwarf, Alaric. But then it grows, and like by the end, there's these like moments where maybe a little bit pointedly, Alaric is thinking about all the dwarfs, and he's like, he learned this about it, and you get it. But even well before those lines start happening, there's like a very distinct feeling to each of these characters, and I thought that was pretty good. And then let's see what else. I thought the Snow White equivalent was sweet. Still not entirely sure I trust her, Tia. I'm not sure how I feel about her. I think she's an interesting character, and I think she's the kind of character that's being left so mysterious that it's kind of intentionally mysterious that it's kind of hard to have a judgment on him. There's also a character that's introduced very close to the end, which is interesting because I was waiting for this kind of... I was waiting for it, but that made me think of, if you've seen, I think it's season 2 of the new She-Ra on Netflix, Double Trouble gets introduced, and that's exactly who I'm thinking of for this character. Like, the voice, I give him everything. So let me get into what frustrated me about this. I did not care for the ending of this. It didn't finish the story. And this was frustrating to me because, like, even if you're writing a book that's in a series, the first book should be self-contained. Like, yeah, you should have mysteries, things that make people want to pick up the next book. But it should generally be pretty self-contained. If you take another duology that I recently read the first of, The Great Hunt from the Eurona duology, I think is what it is. That was a self-contained story. There was a conflict that was brought up in that story that was resolved in that book. Now, granted, that turned out that conflict was part of a bigger conflict, and that's what the duology overall is going to... Can y'all hear a helicopter? And that's what the duology overall is going to handle. And so, like, that's the way to do it. This... Well, it's kind of difficult because even the conflict that's, like, in this story... Yeah, the conflict in this story isn't resolved, and it's because there's a thing that happens towards in the last third of this book that changes what the conflict actually is, which is fine. But then that's not resolved either. And then at the end, they introduce, like, 2 more conflicts that also don't get resolved. And so the ending was very, very unsatisfactory. And that would be fine if I could pick up the sequel. Maybe not immediately, but sometime soon. But unfortunately, the sequel isn't out. Even more unfortunately, I'm not sure the sequel's ever going to be published. So this came out in 2017. I looked up the author. She has another book in this kind of realm published that's, like, I think a prequel about one of the specific dwarfs, which sounds cool. I might read that. Because I really enjoyed, like, the tone of this book and the story, so maybe I'll enjoy that. But what's missing is the sequel. And the only place I can find anything, and granted I did not spend a lot of time researching, but last night when I finished this, the only place I found mentioning the sequel was Goodreads. And the Goodreads has, like, a blurb that was like, coming in 2018 or something like that, which clearly never happened. So I might have to do some more digging into that, but it seems like this might just be indefinitely unfinished. So while I want to recommend this to everyone because I thought it was a really enjoyable book, I thought it was absolutely delightful to read, I'm not going to recommend anybody pick up something that's not finished and possibly never will be. So that's really frustrating. So having finished that, this morning I started The Notorious RBG, which will be, white cover and about a woman in power. And I'm kind of on the fence about it. The first like 2 sections were kind of like really weird. It felt two things were rubbing me the wrong way with it. I mean, one's not really rubbing me the wrong way, but one thing I didn't like was that it was being told very non-chronologically, and that was really annoying, which has gotten better, but it's still happening. Like, they'll just kind of like talk about something Ruth Bader Ginsburg did as a Supreme Court justice and then jump back and be like, but in this time she wasn't there yet, and I'm not loving that. I think if I was reading it physically it wouldn't bother me, but reading it as an audiobook, that's making it really hard to follow. And then the other thing in this, like, not even the intro, so there was the intro, which was fine, but like the first like chapter or first 2 sections were very just self-congratulatory towards the authors, and it just kind of didn't sit well with me. That seems to have faded, but even every once in a while, like, I get that this book was based on a blog, right? I didn't realize that when I chose this particular biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg to read, but I realize it's based on a blog, but like, they don't need to keep referencing the blog. Like, they did like a quick timeline of Ruth Bader, of like all the important things that, not just Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life, but like her mom being born, certain decisions being made that like influenced her or influenced her decisions later on. And they had to include the founding of the blog in there. It's like, it's sitting weird with me. Other than that, it seems like it's going to be a fine, albeit brief, look into Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life, because it's only like 4.5 hours of audiobook. I'll probably finish it today, which does leave me with a problem because the last vlog hasn't gone up, which it will go up tomorrow. I got this one edited really fast, but I don't have any idea what I'm going to read after I finish that. So I don't know, if I read that fast enough, maybe I'll just have 2 separate things for a horror and an Eastern inspired fantasy. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm a little bit, I don't know, I don't know how I feel about this, and I'm kind of regretting picking this one. I mean, obviously, just because I've read one Ruth Bader Ginsburg biography doesn't mean I can't read another one, but like, I don't know, maybe when it gets into her decisions I'll like it more, but I was kind of hoping for more about her life, and that seems to be kind of falling by the wayside. It's more about like just her professional life with like little snippets about her husband or her mother, and I don't know, I like getting more of that personal side of things. I'm also, one thing I will say that's kind of interesting, listening to the decisions that have already been like talked about, I can already see where the language of that could either be used on either side of helping for, because it's obviously Ruth Bader Ginsburg's big thing was women's rights, but there's also like a lot of discussion about how she's also fighting for racial equality, and things, which is the side of her I don't know nearly as much about. And her, right now where I'm at, she's like working with the ACLU, which is great. But the there was like one like decision that was read out about like thing, and it keeps focusing on this, like specifically the idea that like one should not discriminate based on biology and yada yada yada, and I can already see how that language could be used both for and against sexuality and gender discrimination for non-binary genders. And so I'm wondering if this will address it, although I think when this was written it probably wouldn't have been in the forefront, but it'll be interesting to see how that might get addressed later. Anyway, my battery is dying and this clip has been long enough, so I'll talk to you guys either later today or later this week. I just got done recording with Ben, and I have to head to bed because it's pretty late. But just a quick update, I did finish Notorious RBG. It was fine. I think it was a pretty good surface level examination of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life, but it wasn't the best. It was very non-critical, which is not to say you have to be critical when you're providing a biography, but I just, there was a tone to it that didn't sit really with me, and it was told entirely non-chronologically, and it didn't make any sense to me, and it was a little confusing. I don't know why that choice was made. That said, I needed to move on. The next thing was a book with horror elements. I would have liked to have combined this with an Asian fantasy, but I couldn't think of anything. So I'm just gonna split them up, and I'm reading Lakewood right now by Lakewood. I can't think of who it's by. It's a book that came out last year, and it's about experimentation. I don't know that much about it yet. I just started. I'm just getting into the intro of it, and it's this young woman named Lena. I don't remember. And we start the story shortly after her grandmother has passed away. Her mom has been sick, and then we find out that there's been bills not being paid, and so she's financially very not well off. And she's in college, and she gets this weird invitation to participate in these studies, scientific studies. And that's about where I'm at this point. I know that it gets creepy and weird while she's in these studies, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think it's gonna make me unhappy, but in the best way. So I'll let you know how that goes a little bit later. Good morning, or really afternoon. No, it's still before 11. So I didn't update you yesterday at all, and the reason I didn't update you yesterday at all was because I didn't read anything for WoTathon. I instead read all of the Wayward Children books. I will have a vlog for that eventually. So that's why there was no update yesterday. This morning I read more of Lakewood, and I'm about a quarter of the way through it, and things are getting weird. So I don't know if I said what Lakewood was about, because I don't know how far into it I was last clip, but it's about a girl who joins some kind of shady experiments in order to make some money. And I ended up kind of starting to buddy read this with someone. And the one thing they pointed out, they're like, I don't know why she would do this. As soon as I got to the questionnaire where it started asking me for my social media passwords, I would ditch. I disagree. I think it did a really good job of establishing her desperation. She needs money, and she'll do just about anything for it. Which I think was well done. I think part of that, though, very well could have come from my knowledge of the history of scientific experimentation and exploitation, specifically of people of color. If you want to be sad, good book to recommend, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I think that really covers this in a very understandable way that also really dives into the science that's really interesting. Also, if you want to be sad, look into the Tuskegee experiments. Anyway, point is, America in particular, but everywhere, has a history of exploiting people for science. And it's bad. So I also went into it knowing that this is a thing that happens, so it was easier for me to be yeah, no, she would get desperate enough to do this. But where I'm at, it just kind of started, she's in the experiment now, and it started getting weird. It just kind of did this slow build. First there's her her filling out the paperwork, and it's kind of weird. It's asking her questions that maybe shouldn't be asked, that are a little too personal. And then it kind of moves on to her doing this and she's getting asked these questions that are kind of weird and stuff, but then it takes this turn that's like very abruptly, like everything is really weird now, but like the gradual build to it made it feel like there was no time where it made sense for her to like stop. Like there was no point where it like crossed the line until it crossed the line, and by then it was like too late kind of thing. And she's doing, and the author is like showing her justifying these things, like, oh, they're just asking me questions, oh, it's not that bad. So that's been well done, I think. It's interesting though, because like these experiments, we don't know what they're actually for, which is always kind of makes it interesting. It makes it easier to be like in her head, knowing that like something is weird. But we don't really know what this is for, but it feels very CIA, secret experiment, Stranger Things thing, you know, which, there's a lot of noise going on now, let me move, all of that heats up, which I think is really interesting, and adds this kind of, this whole other element wherein we don't really know what it's for, but I'm starting to project things onto it because, no, that's dark. It's making me think, you know, CIA super soldier stuff, which is interesting because if you look into like, Captain America, originally before Steve Rogers became Captain America, they tested the super soldier serum on like a black battalion of men. So that's what it's making me think of, and it's just really interesting. Yeah, and I'm definitely very intrigued and disturbed, so we'll see where it goes from here. I don't know if I'm gonna read that much more today because it's Wednesday, it's the inauguration, and I'm gonna be spending basically the rest of the day on a Zoom call with some friends, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get some in, and I'll update you maybe later today or tomorrow. Good morning. It is Thursday. I didn't end up updating you last night because I ended up kind of buddy reading Lakewood. Friend I met through Discord sent me a message that he wanted to start buddy reading books together, and when I mentioned I was reading Lakewood, he was like, let's read it together. So we ended up reading it together and ended up finishing it. So I finished this last night kind of late, and like between that and discussing it with him, I didn't get around to filming a clip for it, but I really liked it, mostly. The ending really let me down. I wasn't expecting complete closure on Lakewood by any means. I knew it was going to be the kind of book that kind of leaves you guessing, leaves some questions, which is fine. But where I felt a little let down was there was no there was conflict, but there was no direct conflict come at the end. And like, it makes sense for that, for the book not to have that, but I don't know, I was just expecting a little bit more action come towards the end of the book. That said, it was still really good. I think it has some really good messages, not only about like the proper, not just about the exploitation of minorities by the medical field, but also not to have this come out all conspiracy theory and stuff. I definitely don't want you to think that. I want you to come away, understand that like most medical research is done in a very ethical way. We have a lot of rules in place to ensure that, but historically medicine has been built on the exploitation of poor people, black people, imprisoned people, things like that. But anyway, that was one of the messages. The other one was about healthcare and the inaccessibility of healthcare and how screwed up the American system is. All of this, which was great, but I wish the book had kind of left a little room for you to decide those things rather than it just being like, no, this is bad. It was laid on a little thick for my taste. But I also totally understand why you do that. I've had a lot of conversations lately with people about like, if you don't make your message abundantly clear, people will misconstrue your message. So maybe just be blunt. So, I don't know. For my taste, I would have liked to have had to think a little bit more to get there, but I also totally understand why they didn't do it that way. Moving on, for Asian-inspired fantasy, I've started Erusha and the End of Time. So this wasn't even really on my radar, but like a lot of the Asian fantasies that I had on my radar, I could not get access to immediately, which was a little frustrating. So I started looking at some other ones, and this is one I could get written by an Asian or an Asian American. That was a big thing I knew I wanted when picking a book for this, was that I didn't want an Asian-inspired fantasy written by a white person. So this is what ended up being something I could get access to, and it sounds really sweet. It might be kind of a fun, more lighthearted read. It was about a young girl, Indian American. I'm not sure when they moved, if her mom was first generation or she is or what. But her mom works in a runs a museum, and to like Indian history, and she goes to this like private school where everybody's like really fancy and rich, and so she starts telling these lies about what she does over the summer and going on these fancy trips and all these things to make her out to be more wealthy and experienced than she really is, which is going great. She's making friends until some kids at school catch on that she's lying. And this becomes a problem because she's like immediately like, I'm gonna lose all of my friends. The kids like recording her reaction to this. So she decides to tell them about this cursed lamp that her mom has. And she takes them to the museum to this lamp and tells them the story of this lamp. And to make a long story short, if you light the lamp, it summons, can't remember the name of the god, I will correct myself later on that, and will lead to the destruction of Earth. And her friends are like, well, we don't believe you, I dare you to light the lamp. And so she does. And clearly something happens, and that's kind of where I'm at, and that's basically what I think the synopsis tells you a little bit more, but that's where I'm at, and it's interesting. I do think this is the kind of thing where I'm going to struggle a little bit to connect, just because I'm so far past 7th grade, but I also think I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm excited to continue this and see where it goes. And I really need to read Warbreaker, but I'm also going to be starting Way of Kings today, because that's what we said we were going to read together next, my friend and I. So that's definitely going to be a mistake, but I'm going to start anyway. Let me know below, because I was planning on doing this, but I'm just interested to see what like people think. Let me know below if you'd be interested in like reading diaries as I read them. They'd be spoiler filled, it'd be as I read, I would update you on what I'm thinking. Just straight Way of Kings, I'd like update you periodically. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. I was thinking of doing it anyway, since I know Stormlight Archive is so popular, and also like it's something that like I feel like a lot of my audience is gonna have overlap with. So just let me know below if that's something you're actually interested in, or if you're like so over Stormlight Archive and you kind of don't want me to even talk about it. So alright. Okay, I'm gonna head to bed here soon. I might listen to some more of Arusha. Can't get myself in the frame. Casually go on a lounge. Okay. I am about, ignore the minion pants, I'm about halfway through Arusha right now. I might listen to it a little bit more before bed, but I think I'm gonna focus on Way of Kings for a little bit. And I'm really liking it. So this is a Rick Riordan Presents novel, which is like, Rick Riordan was basically like, look, I enjoyed writing about mythology that I understand. I was gonna say that's part of my culture, but he wrote some Egypt stuff that's kind of meh. Anyway, here's books similar to Percy Jackson, but written about other cultures. Go read them. And this feels like Percy Jackson. Like, it's a big quest, it's a girl that didn't know her actual I don't think parentage is necessarily the best word, but yeah, it's very similar. It's a very questy thing, group of friends, although it's just the two of them. I don't remember with Percy Jackson. I think the first book was just him and Annabelle. So it's that kind of vibe. I'm really enjoying it. Boo has some major, like, what's the name of the bird, the hornbill from Lion King? Zabu. Is some big, like, Zazu vibes, and I'm loving it. I like the questiness of it. I think the dynamic between the two girls is really cute. And I really like, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the message is going to be one about being true to yourself, don't lie, yada yada yada, cheesy middle grade stuff, which is cute. Just sometimes her lying comes in handy. A little too often her lying comes in handy for the plot, so I feel like that's undermining the message, and the message is going to end up coming out, don't lie unless you have to, which is maybe not the worst message, but definitely not the best. So I don't know, that's kind of getting muddled, but other than that, I am really enjoying it, and it's getting me super intrigued about the Indian mythology that it's pulling from. So I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna read a couple of these epic poems. And on top of that, it's got me all thinking about the fact that, like, why do we have to read Greek epic poetry in high school but nothing else? Like I had to read the Odyssey. Why did I not have to read the I don't know how to say it, or the other one? If I had the book in front of me physically, I could tell you. Anyway, like, why don't we have to read those? Why only the Odyssey and or the Iliad? American school system? I feel like I'm not saying anything profound here. The American school system is biased. Anyway, so I'm kind of curious about it, and I might read one of them or both of them at some point. If anybody has recommendations for which epic Indian poem I should check out, maybe leave them below and I will see about it. But yeah, that's the gist of it. I haven't started Warbreaker yet. Now that I'm at, like, the halfway point, I might start tomorrow. Definitely will start this weekend, so I'll try to start it tomorrow just so you can see the start of it and see where I'll be reading it. That's an unusual place for me. Because I think I want to I have it physically in the special edition, and, like, might be blasphemous to some people, but I'm totally okay reading it in the special edition. But I also do want to, like, see about getting the audiobook to read with it, just so it goes a little faster. But that's the plan. Alright, talk to you tomorrow. You know, we're just gonna live with it. Well, welcome to my closet. I don't actually have anything with Arusha to update you on. I've read a little bit more. It's still really cute. That's gonna be annoying. But I wanted to start Warbreaker a little bit and show you where I'll be reading Warbreaker so that you can get an idea of it, because I might end up finishing it over the weekend. God, the lighting in here is awful. I don't think closets were made for reading in. But I wanted to at least get started on it so you guys can see a little bit of where I'll be reading. And I'm definitely going to change where I have you set, because this is not comfortable for me and it's still a really bad shot. So, we're going to turn that around. Good morning and welcome to week 4 of the WoTathon. Just like with week 2, I haven't edited week 3's vlog yet. The difference is my free time is going to be greatly reduced because I start coursework tonight. So there's a much higher chance that these two vlogs get combined, especially because I'm probably going to have less footage in general. I finished Arusha and I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was, like, the best book I'd ever read, but it was cute. It was a really cute middle grade. It's probably the best middle grade I've read in a while. So it's got that going for it. So I'm just trying to find something with a little bit of caffeine. So that's good. That's going for it. So I like that. I did not finish Warbreaker like I expected. I am on like chapter 5 or 6. I like Warbreaker, I've read it before. The problem is that I have let Way of Kings take up a lot more of my reading time than it's supposed to. Which is fine, because I'm really liking Way of Kings. And it's honestly fascinating to see the contrast in Sanderson's writing, how much he has improved from Warbreaker to Way of Kings. So I'm going to try to balance those a little better. But this is why I generally don't read 2 physical books at the same time, because one of them just gets all of my attention. Not to mention I'm technically reading a 3rd. So that's where I'm at for that. Hopefully I will get some updates to you. I'm trying to pick... So my last book was supposed to be... I can never think of the name of this book when I'm trying to think of the name of the book. The one about the mermaid and the revenge and... that one. But one is only available as ebook, and that's kind of frustrating, and I'm gonna need an audiobook because I have to go into work in person on Wednesday. So I might either split that up or just skip straight till the end. And there's about a 50-50 chance I end up just reading Warbreaker not in my closet, and having that be, and just skipping that prompt. I'll still read Warbreaker because I need to for the live show on Friday, but not necessarily reading it where I'm supposed to. So we'll see about that. Hi, remember me? I say that as if for you it hasn't been seconds, but for me it's been days. 3 of them to be exact. And I haven't really updated because I really haven't had an update. On one level, maybe choosing to read Way of Kings in the middle of this readathon was a mistake. On the other level, I have made like a new best friend, so you know it's worth it. I've read a little bit more of Warbreaker. I need to get that finished by tomorrow so the live show can happen. But I've read it before, so it's fine. Like, worst case scenario, it's like I gotta look up some chapter summaries or something. I haven't started To Kill a Kingdom. That's the name, I figured it out. I haven't started To Kill a Kingdom yet, because it's ebook. I hate ebook. But I will probably start that tonight. Not likely I have class tonight, but probably tomorrow. Almost definitely tomorrow. Part of the problem, aside from trying to read Way of Kings and also spending too much time talking, and sorry, it's really windy, but aside from, you know, trying to read Way of Kings and spending all of my free time on Discord, is that I started Pet by Akwegi Emezi on audiobook. And this isn't really related to the vlog, but I feel I'm not liking it. And it's sending me into this horrible slump. And it's so annoying for this like 4-hour-long audiobook to be frustrating me this much. My Sister the Serial Killer might have been the start of that, actually. Anyway, point being, I'm gonna push through. I'm definitely reading To Kill a Kingdom, which will be revenge and fairy tale retelling. I'm doing it, so I'll have missed the blight, but whatever. And it's gonna happen, I promise. But the plus side, the fact that this is a 2-week vlog, because it's definitely gonna be 2 weeks, isn't too bad now, because the second half is gonna be real short. So, plus side? Yeah, anyway, I will talk to you tomorrow, I guess. Okay, it's Saturday. I know I normally stop these vlogs on Friday, but like I didn't want to end the vlog before I was done. Anyway, if you saw the live show, which I think is still available, I'm having issues trying to figure that out with YouTube right now. I didn't finish Warbreaker. I'm not really that sorry about it because I've read it before. I wish I had gotten it in time, but I picked a really bad time to decide to read Way of Kings, but I'm not sorry about it. Anyway, I also haven't even started To Kill a Kingdom, and given that it's an ebook, there's just no way it's gonna get done in 2 days. So, what I've done, because like the last prompt is just to read a fairy tale retelling or folklore or something that involves folklore, and given that that's the prompt, I have The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. This was a gift from my friend Tina for our D&D Secret Santa, and I'm like so happy she gave it to me because it's the kind of book that I want, like desperately wanted, but was never gonna buy for myself because I don't feel justified buying things this small. It's why like I don't buy a lot of graphic novels and things because they they're worth the price, but they don't feel worth the price. Anyway, so I'm really happy she got it for me. And it's really, really short, so I can totally bang this out this afternoon, and if not, I'll finish it tomorrow and wrap this vlog up for you then. So, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do now. Alright, so I did finish it. I managed to finish it during, actually, the final live stream of WoTathon. So this is, oof, the cover got a little wrinkled. Okay, I didn't really say what this is about, and because it's really short, so it's kind of hard to describe what it's about, but it's kind of similar to kind of like a weird Snow White Sleeping Beauty crossover. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with for it. It's really, really cute. I really enjoyed it. Mostly it's just beautiful. So let me find a picture from like early on so you don't get spoiled at all. Like it's just absolutely beautiful, beautifully illustrated, and it's all in these like black and white with just hints of gold. Anyway, so it's just gorgeous, and I really, really, really enjoyed reading it. So it's a great way to end out the readathon, considering I was kind of sliding into a slump there at the end. And that's it for me. I hope you guys had a fun readathon, whether you were reading or just watching my vlogs or just tuning in for some of the great content. I want to thank you to big thank you to everyone that hosted one of the reading sprints this past month, because you guys are all amazing and I love you and appreciate you. Yeah, and that's basically it. Please let me know below what you think of this, if you think the prompts were good, if you thought the theme was cool, whether you participated or you're just hearing it from me. Let me know your thoughts below, because I'd like to keep doing this from year to year, and continue through the rest of the Wheel of Time series for theming. But you know, give me some input so I can hopefully improve it. I know there's a couple prompts I didn't like personally. And Ben, I know, talked with me a little bit about some of the other prompts, which are just like a little too specific if you haven't read the book to know if it fits, which I guess makes sense. So I'm gonna work on tweaking well, next year it'll be completely different prompts, but things like that. So thank you so much for joining me, and